6:52. Good morning. Let's head over to the KUAM News Zoom room where we're going to switch gears a little bit and bring on the district court where we have the chief judge, Francis Tedinko Gatewood, and the chief deputy, Chuck White, in our KUAM News Link Zoom room. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Off a day.
Hi.
Morning, chief.
Morning.
How you guys doing?
Good.
We're hanging in there.
Hanging in there, right on.
As all of us are, right?
Chief, I know you're doing good, but are you doing good?
Well, I'm trying to. I'm doing okay. Let's just put it that way.
I feel you. Yeah, it's definitely a crazy time that we're living in. We're all trying to make sense of it. Hey, we got you on because I know that you guys have kind of changed some things with the PCOR1 declaration, but I know that the changes you have made didn't just happen overnight. There's all kinds of planning. So can we just start there? What is you guys' PCOR1 posture? Tell us a little bit about the operations for the federal court.
Well, I'll talk about it briefly. Then I'll have Mr. White, my chief deputy, talk about it a little more in depth because actually, Mr. White, as the chief deputy of the United States Federal District Court, he handles the operations, and he's been very much front and center in getting our court ready and leading our court personnel, including me and Judge Berdalio, in preparing for the different condition of readiness for our court, consistent with the governor's pandemic condition of readiness. So, of course, the courts have to balance the rights of the defendant, the right to a speedy trial, the right to due process, the right to have in-court appearances for guilty pleas, sentencings, trials, and so forth. We have to balance that right with the right of the public to be in a healthy environment, the right of our staff to be in a healthy environment, and to be in a safe place. And if we don't get, like, for example, Mr. White and I can talk about that a little later, but it's just taken a lot of effort. It's taken a lot of time on his part as leading the court and with Jeannie Kanata, our clerk of court as well, in putting our plans together and how are we going to handle having people come into the courthouse. And it's not just for our court, it's not just for the court hearings. We also have tenants in our courthouse. We have the Secret Service, the Department of Labor, the Guam GSA, our United States Marshals, U.S. Probation and Pretrial. So there's a lot of tenants as well that comes into the courthouse. And so we've just, there's just been so many things we've done. And maybe I can have Mr. White just talk to you. Is that kind of, you want to just him to give you a brief background of what we've done, and then you could ask questions. That might be a lot easier.
Sure, yeah.
Mr. Chris, okay. I call you Mr. Chris
I
Malfunction.
know. Mr. Chris Malfunction. Okay. It doesn't really match, but okay.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, Chuck, take it away. You got to say at least 500 words when you come on the Zoom, so go for it.
Yeah, certainly the pandemic has posed lots of business problems for us, and some of the business problems are the same problems that every other business faces. Anyone with a public-facing service counter. So we've done all the standard things that your listeners have heard about: social distancing, screening at the door, hand sanitizer everywhere, that kind of thing. But the real challenging business problem, I think, is jury trials. That fundamental constitutional thing. And specifically jury selection, where we bring in up to 100 or maybe more jurors in trial. So that's a huge problem. And some of your listeners have probably heard about the CARES Act. That's that $2 trillion expenditure a few months ago. Well, the court didn't get any of that money. So what we're doing is using our existing funds to try to solve this huge business problem. But what the CARES Act did for us is that it allowed us to expand our use of audio and video technology. We still can't broadcast hearings, much to your chagrin. I know I'm always dealing with asking if they could come in with their cameras, but we have a greatly expanded use of video and audio now. All of our hearings are available, accessible through a toll-free number for audio. We're using Zoom with our existing video equipment. and other Zoom-like tools. But as the chief said, the rights of the defendants have to be balanced too. So the CARES Act requires that any hearing that's conducted by video, or at least if the defendant has to consent to appearing by video, they have the right to appear in person. So, and of course, the conditions have to be evaluated every 90 days and things like that. So that's what the CARES Act has done for us, and we've tried to leverage every single thing we have. We have 2 solutions for jury selection currently, and I think it's important to have more than one solution. The Chief Judge has arranged the possibility of off-site jury selections at the National Guard Readiness Center. And we have a solution for smaller trials, smaller jury selections in-house, using multiple rooms and using our video equipment.
Right.
So
How was the National
basically
Guard
where we're at.
Readiness
Our posture now, of
Center
course, is-
selected?
I'm sorry, what was that, Sabrina?
I was just curious how the National Guard Center was selected for these off jobs.
So what happened was I spoke to Mr. White, and we have a very extensive plan, as he said, for the district court. How are we going to do jury selection at the district court? The problem is with this, even though I have a big court and a big courtroom, the social distancing, of course, just shrinks the number of people that can come in for jury selection, as Mr. White has said. So he and I discussed the issue of, okay, should we go out for a hotel ballroom? And so Mr. White, he can talk to you about that, the process of that. But when we discovered that might be a little high for us in terms of finances, I sat down and I said, you know what? What about the Readiness Center? I think I've been there, and it's pretty big. That's a big shell. Are we allowed to do it? So I just called up the Adjutant General, Ms. Esther Agagi, and I said, hey, is it possible that we could we rent it? What can we do? Is it possible that we can have jury selection there if you would allow us? And so she was very accommodating.
Wow. So it's like, hey,
and
girl,
she
can we
said-
do our jury selection over there, girl? Oh, yeah, we got it. All right, on, okay.
Well, no, she was accommodating for us to at least come down and then discuss it with her.
Right.
And she assigned Captain Manglotnia to work closely with Chief Deputy White and everything. And so, so that's how we got it. That,
Right.
I just remembered it. And so Mr. White, not only has Mr. White ensured that we have a plan for social distancing, we have like a map of the district court, if we're going to do jury selection there, of a specific hotel, if we were going to do it there. And now we have one at the National Guard Readiness Center.
Do you guys anticipate a lot of people, calling out or trying to call out sick from jury
Yeah.
duty?
Well, you know what? So I'm going to have Charles talk about the polling, but just in terms of the results. But what I did was I've had 3 trials scheduled. I was supposed to start a jury trial last week, and we were all set to do it at the Readiness Center for jury selection only. The trial actually will be held at the district court. So we did a polling. I worked closely with Mr. White, and he and the jury administrator sent out the polls and to see what the comfort level is of the jurors. So Charles, maybe you could just talk about that briefly, like how many polls that we've had, and then just the results recently.
Well, what we've done, the Chief Judge has come up with a pre-screening questionnaire that we send out with jury summons. And that really is 2 purposes. One is to, as the Chief mentioned, is to gauge the comfort level of the jurors. Although I don't know if juries are ever comfortable, right? It's like going to the dentist. But
Hey,
other-
don't say dentist.
oh, that's right. Related.
Not really a good marketing pitch. Jury duty. Calling the dentist.
But the other purpose of it is to give jurors the opportunity to ask for a COVID-related excuse. Now, the COVID-related has to be, they have to assert that there's a few different circumstances, and it has to impact their ability to be a fair and impartial juror. And of course, that's subject to the approval of the Chief Judge.
Right.
But should help us pre-screen jurors so that on the day of jury selection, we're not dealing with an overwhelming number of people that want COVID-related excuses. That should be minimal. Right now, our comfort level, I think, is about 50-50. people say some degree of discomfort, some degree of comfort. It's about half and half. Far fewer, though, have actually asked for excuses.
So how does
Probably single-digit percentages.
Oh, wow.
So how does this work for the people that are willing to come in and to go through the jury process? Do they get screened, or before they come onto the base? How does that work?
Oh yeah. So this is how we're working it out with the National Guard. They're going to, as I understand, they'll get a list of the names. They'll know exactly who the names of the people are coming in. So that's how they're going to go through that gate there, and then they will be directed to a certain place, and then they will be screened by Mr. White and the staff, the jury administrator, and the other clerks. That's how they're going to get in.
Okay. When you say screening,
No.
like a medical screening or temperature checks,
no.
things like that, or
Yeah. The court has a series of 4 or 5 questions we ask, and this is questions about exposure to COVID-19,
Right.
The quarantine status. I believe also that the National Guard Readiness Center has a temperature temperature taking protocol. At the current time, the court does not, and at the courthouse, but I think the National Guard Readiness Center does. Everyone that goes in there has their temperature taken.
Wow. It's
Thing is,
kind of,
most jurors, my opinion is that if a juror knows that they have a temperature, they're definitely going to use that as a reason not to come,
right.
and a good reason.
And there's
So
also
I think that should be minimal.
the whole asymptomatic, temperature checks are fine and good, but there's a whole bunch of people who have COVID and are asymptomatic and don't show any symptoms. So, hey Chuck,
Right.
I was curious, so let's say we get a trial, we have a jury, someone in the jury catches COVID, right? I mean, what kind of plan do you guys have to do, like, contact tracing, and then, obviously you're going to have to replace those jurors? Would you just use kind of pre-COVID protocols? Let's say pre-COVID, someone, whatever, something happens and they can't do jury duty anymore, you just replace them. So, yeah, what are those protocols? If someone catches COVID, how do you deal with it?
You mean like during?
Yeah,
you mean
during
like
the-
if we have already selected a jury, for
Right.
example, and then all of a sudden during the trial, a juror has contracted COVID.
Right, right.
Well, so we would follow the protocol that's required by the epidemiologist and the government. I mean, Chris and Sabrina, the court has been advised. Our court has been advised to follow the, look at what the governor and the Department of Public Health and Social Services are doing in terms of the protocol, whether it's, pursuant to the Centers for Disease Control or the World Health Organization. So I suspect that I know for sure that's what we would do. We would have to call off the trial. I mean, everybody would have to get tested,
Wow.
especially if the jurors were in contact with a fellow juror, and if the staff was. I mean, we would follow that protocol. Mr. White, you want to chime in on that part?
Yeah, there'd obviously be what we call continuance, which in ordinary language would be a postponement for testing. Every jury panel has a series of alternates too.
Right.
Typically, with the chief judge's trials, at least 4 alternates, and it depends on how long the trial. A great number of our trials should only last less than a week, even if jury selection is a little bit extended. The social distancing inside the courthouse or offsite is strictly enforced. So it's not like, for example, jury deliberation is going to happen, and those jurors will be deliberating in a socially distant manner.
Wow.
In the same room, in a very large room.
Yeah.
So it won't be huddled together, for example.
Yeah.
So I mean, to minimize that, but that's an excellent question.
Yeah.
But it would be than normal protocols, and probably using at least 1 or 2 of the alternates.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So, Chris, if say we do go 14 days, I'm hoping that we could get fast test results. I mean, the results for Guam sometimes are as early as 1 day. I don't know about hours or minutes. You hear that on TV.
They have
but
a rapid
I don't know.
test, Your Honor. The Abbott the test, I believe, and it's 15 minutes. But then those machines can only run a certain number of tests per hour.
Yeah.
And those
Yeah,
tests,
so,
I mean,
I
like
mean-
for example, public health will use those tests on people who may have come into close contact with a confirmed
Case.
positive.
Right. And so the issue too is like, even if they came into close, if they came into close contact, even if they test negative, they'll probably go into quarantine. As Mr. White said, if it's a 14-day quarantine, we'd have a 14-day continuance. But say that particular juror that tested positive is just not doing well. Well, then I would just excuse that juror and I'll pull up an alternate.
I see. I guess, Chuck, is there anything else you want to add? I did have kind of like one last question that maybe you guys can close with, if you don't have anything else.
The one thing I would say,
Okay.
I would ask, and I don't know if Mr. White wants to say it. I'm glad you asked us to be on here,
Yeah.
Chris and Sabrina, or allowed us to be on your show. Is that we do have the polls going out to the jurors, the jury pool, and it's really important for the court, for me, for the lawyers, to know how comfortable people will come in, how comfortable people will feel about coming in to sit as jurors. Obviously, if they're not comfortable, then you know what? The defendant's not going to have a trial. They're not going to have it today. They're not going to have it. Well, it might be a while.
Yeah.
They're not going to have their jury trial. So I would just encourage that those persons who have the questionnaire that we've sent out, it's a 12 questions, and we've already sent it out by snail mail and by email, and we want that returned so that we can get the results.
Right.
Thank you. And Chuck, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, just that we're right in the middle of this thing. So we're not even pretending that all the answers and business problems are solved, but we're just striving to make not only the jurors actually safe, but for them to perceive and to really believe that they're safe, so
Right.
that they can make that impartial
Right.
decision.
And I guess my last question is, we've got some really big trials, not just going on, but about to be going on. And I just want to see your statement. Are we, with all of this going on, are we still able to confidently say that we're pursuing all of these cases, the best of our ability? Because this COVID is a huge curveball. And I see, on the local government side, things that are falling through the cracks. And, I just don't want to see that with the district court, especially I feel like there's, like I said, some big cases before you guys.
Well, let me just say, I can assure the public and the defendants and all the attorneys at the federal court, and I'm pretty sure it's the same with the local court as well. Having come from there, everybody has a strong interest in ensuring that the defendant's constitutional right to a speedy trial, a fair trial, is held. And so we are doing everything in our power. Believe me, I mean, we're doing everything in our power to try to get the jury trials, to get them going. The problem is, I mean, if this COVID-19 pandemic continues to scare the public, then the likelihood of us getting them in the courtroom is very low.
Wow.
And so, but we just have to be patient. And, even though some defendants will say, well, Judge, you know what? I don't care. I'm continuing to assert my right to a speedy trial. You know what? We all the judges, all the lawyers, all the clerks, we all respect that. The thing is, if you can't get jurors in, you just can't get it in. I mean, it's just an impossibility.
Wow.
So we just have to wait. But I can promise you that we're doing our best to get everything in order. We are ready. We are honestly ready to go. It's just the question is the public ready to be here?
Right.
But just to follow up on that, what happens though, Judge, if you get sick, or if or if like Judge
I get
Badalio
sick?
gets sick, and we don't have a judge, what do
No,
we?
if I get okay, so let's say a defense lawyer gets sick,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's in the Speedy Trial Act, there's an exception to continuity of counsel. So they're going to try to get that lawyer fixed. Better.
Give him an oil change.
No, but let me tell you, there are some lawyers that have come into our court, and Charles and I have talked about. There's some lawyers that said, "Look, I have comorbidity issues. I have diabetes. I have a heart disease. I have this and that. Judge, I'm scared to be around anybody because of my own health." And we understand that. So we are working with those defendants to have distancing meetings. But so if I got sick, we would continue the trial.
Okay.
We're not going to get another judge unless I'm deathly sick or something.
Right.
But yeah, we would continue and then come on in just like anybody else.
Right on.
All right.
Well, thanks for coming on, and keep us posted. I don't know if you said, but how many jury questionnaires did you guys send out? Because I might have missed that. Chuck,
Well, Chuck.
jury poll.
I think about 250
Okay.
to the randomly selected ones that are for upcoming trials. I think in one batch we sent out twice. We sent the same questionnaire a few weeks apart to gauge whether there's a difference.
Okay, all right.
And we're still getting.
And so what you should know though, Chris, is that, and Sabrina, is that when we sent out the first poll a couple of months ago, the comfort level was very low because this was the COVID was just really starting to generate. Then we got our results back on the next polling that Mr. White and our jury administrator sent out, and 75% of the those polled, our jury poll, they felt comfortable. They said, okay, we feel comfortable if the district court really has sanitizers, masks. We're going to make all that available, even shields. I think we're going to try to get shields, face shields, and everything. If you're keeping your court clean, FTG and Chuck and everybody, then we'll come in. They're fine with that. And then now that we're back, so we're now back in pandemic condition ready 1, right? So now I asked Mr. White to please send out a polling, and so we're getting the results now. I bet you those results will come back not as comfortable.
Right, correct, yeah. Well, thanks, Chuck, Your Honor. Thank you for coming on. It's good talking with you this morning.
It's my pleasure.
Thanks.
Take care.
Stay safe.
All right, bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All rise.
All right, take care. Thank you, Charles.
Okay, thank you.
He's been wanting to say that.
Yeah.
I've been waiting all morning to bring that one out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chuck. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
We need to get a gavel too. Right?
I got a wand.
I think I have my son's Thor gavel. I'm like,
The Mjolnir. Hey, it's 7:14. Dr. Michael is right there. We're going to take a short break and come back with Dr. of One Love Pediatrics. Good morning, Guam. It's the link on